Call the meeting to order.
Even. Comments all said and done.
Director Theo, if you lead us in prayer.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day and this crowd that we have gathered tonight. We appreciate the cool weather, finally going to help us hopefully prevent further hurricanes coming this way. Bless this meeting as we carry it forward. Teach us to be respectful of each other as we conduct the business of the hauling of our water system. In your name we pray.
Amen. Director Nell, lead us in the pledge.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum. All 6 are present. Audio and video recorders are in use. And as usual, if you'd like to, there's a member forum sign-up sheet. If you'd like to address the board. I don't think that'll be an issue tonight. Let's look at the approval of the minutes and transcripts from August 24, 2022 closed executive sessions, unredacted and redacted, September 22nd's regular meeting minutes and transcripts, September 29th closed executive session meeting minutes unredacted and redacted, and then October 6th, 2022 closed executive session meeting minutes redacted and unredacted.
Move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
I have a couple of corrections.
Okay.
On page 2 of the minutes, Sprayfield is spelled Sprayfield, so that needs to be fixed.
Okay.
And on the transcripts, there's the section, there's a couple of items I had on that. Page 7, line 4, I think you mean forensic audit instead of friends audit.
I had that one too.
And page 74, the motion on the Sprayfield Golf Course split was 4 ayes and 3 nays. There you didn't have Director Kennedy voting, you had Director Dabney voting twice, so he was both an aye and a nay, so I guess it's a push, but anyway, that's all I have.
And I have a couple of corrections on page 115, line 17. It's a comment that I made, and it was the words "the board" need to be changed to "this company to decide." Page 117, line 21, the word "qualifications" needs to be changed to the word "deletions." And that's
Okay.
all that I have as far as corrections.
Any other discussion, any other corrections?
I do have one discussion item. Our meeting minutes, and this is nothing at all against staff. In fact, I want to make staff's job easier. Our meeting minutes were 8 pages long, and I think the guides for doing minutes will state that they need to be a much more brief description of what happened. They shouldn't include actual quotes from anyone in them. It should just be, you know, the items on the agenda, what the motions were, and who voted on them. They're getting a little more wordy than meeting minutes should be, according to most of your guides of how to do meeting minutes. So I think it would save staff time to not have to put as much information in there as they're currently putting in.
Okay. I'd also, as you find these corrections, if you can let us know beforehand, before the meeting.
I would, but I didn't get the packet until I was out of town, and so, you know.
We got the packets Friday, but point taken.
I was out of town.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, approval of membership. So in September, we had 292 new members, canceled 275 with 1 transfer. I'll entertain a motion to approve memberships.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, forensic audit. So here's the status of play. If you can, so far we've had 4 companies that we've contacted. Declined the company 1 declined outright. Company 2 did not return phone calls. Company 3 was willing to look at an RFP, but they wanted to narrow the scope. and they had concerns because due to the publicity involved. And then Company 4, which I think member Mr. Ash had contacted beforehand, they actually thought that he was part of Navarre Water System when he called them. But the $20,000 that was quoted was actually just to come out and see us. And then from there, they would give us a estimate on what it would take for the scope of work. So that's the order of play right now.
So the 20K,
Was
I'm
for
thinking you mean more than just come see us, but come see and evaluate
come do an
the
initial
system.
assessment, and then
Okay.
they would provide us with a estimate of the scope of work.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at. We're kind of pushing the envelope because around about this time, we start with the annual audit. And our annual auditors have said, CPAs have said they would not come out until this was either conducted or no longer be required, because it would obviously impact what they were doing. So I'm kind of looking for a way forward here from somebody, discussion. Part of this is, so 3 of the directors actually got 6 months worth of registers and supporting document. I'm wondering if there's anything in there anybody has found that we would narrow the scope to find, or if you had a chance to go through those.
I got a list of stuff that needs to be turned in to get.
So is it actually
Invoices.
more towards what the policy wasn't followed by the previous CEO? Is that the kind of thing you're leaning towards, or actually something that we could put our hat to that said
Not real
maybe
sure.
a criminal activity?
Yeah, I'm not real sure right yet. I mean, gotta look at the invoices that go with the checks.
Possibly,
You didn't have the invoices with the checks, you had the
No, all you
purchase
got-
agreements
You
and all
don't
of
even
that?
have, you don't even have invoice numbers on the checks.
I know that, but
Yeah.
with the check register, you should have had the supporting document that went with that check. They wouldn't just cut the check. So the purchase
think that was in
agreement or the,
I don't think that's in there. I haven't got that far, I guess.
go ahead, Darryl.
I was, a possible way to narrow the scope of the forensic audit would be to have someone or a firm come in and do a forensic investigation as to whether or not our policies were followed, and whether any of those were violated last year.
Well, I think we can probably all agree that that did happen.
Well, I
Yeah.
know they did.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and those registers you've given us really show that.
Yeah.
The problem is we've got a lot of records there. And I'm certain we don't have all the data to be able to make a determination. We certainly don't have all the data to be able to determine whether any other bad acts may have occurred. So if we hire an independent third party to come in and maybe look at that, that could narrow the scope and reduce the cost. It also acts as kind of a tree trunk there, because the violations of our policies could lead to other areas.
Right.
So
it's my understanding that when the auditor came in last year, they actually looked at controls and policies and our adherence to that. So surely wouldn't, if we went with the annual, they would do the same thing?
we've already determined that the policies were violated.
Right.
So
why are we
and that
paying?
was not caught that time. So.
Well,
But then that's not what they were looking for.
but they looked at 2021.
That's 2020, right? No, 2021. You're
Right.
correct.
So, and now we have the records for 2022.
Yes.
So would they not be the same people that would look to see during the year 2022 that they were violated and,
They would be, so
Okay.
it would be nice to have a third party.
okay? So,
If, that's just
no.
that's just for discussion.
No, I know.
I'm not making a motion or anything else.
No.
I'm just trying to
so
see if anybody else.
our two options are we can narrow the scope to some form or fashion, or we can keep looking and then we get behind on the annual audit. Or a third option, is we go ahead and pursue the initial audit and ask for if they could do, or you actually would like
I would
another
actually like a third party to do
okay.
it.
All right.
But that, like I said, it's for discussion for everybody.
Like a third party to do what?
Instead of our annual auditor come in and have another CPA to come and look at the controls that these folks looked at in 2021.
Instead of our You mean for this
There's a
year's
difference
audit?
between a forensic investigation or a forensic audit to determine whether the controls were followed as opposed to a regular audit to determine whether the controls are adequate. That's what I'm discussing, so I appreciate not being blown off like that. You know, our auditors. Yeah.
No, I didn't blow you off.
Do you think
All right.
are you saying
Let's
I
just
did,
move
Darrell?
forward.
Do you want to get a different auditing agency? Would that solve?
No, I think Warren Averett is a fine group of auditors for us. They've been very good to us throughout the years. I think we've got a situation here to where we need someone with a new set of eyes to look at this, because obviously internally we can't determine it. And our members want something. I do. I do.
Okay. Don?
Well, back to my question. So are those auditors going to do something different than what the current auditor does?
I believe the gentleman that spoke at our last meeting explained the differences between a forensic audit and a financial audit, didn't he?
So is that a yes or a no?
Yes, they
All
will
right,
do
thank
something
you very
different.
much.
Yeah, but he also did say that they would be looking for criminal activity, not using our controls and going above what the board had authorized them to do is different than
Fraud.
a criminal activity.
That's right.
Yes.
So my
So that's
guess,
why I don't understand why another audit focusing on those would not show that, hey, you didn't. I mean, you three have had those, and right now you're saying that's not enough data. So okay, if you tell me that, but what's the right thing to do? We limit the scope so we get somebody in to look at that, to put our minds at rest, and then do the annual audit? Or we go with the annual audit and then do that? If they come up with something, we ask them for a certain focus. That's what I need the board to discuss and decide, because otherwise we're sitting.
We approved up to 50,000.
Yep.
20,000 would, there is a company that for 20,000 will come out and assess our situation. We could narrow the scope to the last 3 to 6 months of, Mr. Peavy's employment with us. And if anything shows up in the last 3 to 6 months that is irregular, then we can, as a board, decide, do we pursue this further? Do we keep pulling that string, which I think we would if we found, any irregularities. But if there's no irregularities in the last 3 to 6 months that he was here, do we keep chasing something that's not there? That's kind of what I'm thinking is, I kind of figured we couldn't get anything done for 20, but we budgeted up to 50, and I think 50 should give us, to where they go in and do a detailed audit of the last 3 to 6 months.
For the 20K, they're just going to come out and talk to us, right?
Come out
And figure
do
out
this,
what we want to do.
and then they would give an estimate.
Then they'll give
Then-
us-
Can we get something in writing from them that says what they'll do for 20,000? A phone conversation is not enough for me. I want something in writing.
Well, if we're gonna do that, then I'd suggest you amend that we go back and narrow the scope, and then we put it back out and see if maybe one of them will come out for 10 to give us an assessment.
Any other ideas?
well, I got a question. Okay, so for the controls audit, Darrell, that you mentioned, would it be acceptable or proper, put it in the right phrase, instead of doing our regular audit, have our auditor do the controls audit specifically?
Forensic audit to determine whether our controls were violated.
Okay,
But you wanted a third party, not necessarily our normal audit. I'm okay with that. I'm just trying to figure out what,
well, I'm just thinking the current ones,
I think that-
whether they found the problems or not, they know our processes.
They do. And I think the problem we're having now, or the problem that I'm having now is that, Warren Averett's a good firm and I have nothing wrong with them. And this has nothing to do, this is not them in particular, but the people that we're relying on for some of this data, I don't think we're getting reliable data from them. I think that some of the data that we're given is wrong.
So you say that they're giving Warren Everett the wrong date also?
No, I'm just saying that they're giving it to us. And I don't want our internal management to have anything to do with the forensic audit.
Our finance folks.
Yes, exactly.
So where else are they, okay. All right, well, I'm waiting for a motion then. It is the motion to combine Mark and have somebody else come in and look at 3 to 6 months, just the controls. Maybe that would get it down to what we're looking at to see, and then they pull the thread and see if there's more to it, and then we go from there.
I make a motion that we narrow the scope of the forensic audit to be a forensic audit of our internal controls and whether or not they were violated during the first 6 months of 2022.
I'll second that.
May I comment before you vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Amos, Okay, so you have, any other board discussion? Because I'm thinking an RFP with that might be the trick. I mean, I'll put the RFP out and see, so.
So my question is gonna be, if we find the control part's been violated, where do we go from there?
Controls depends on, was it just exceeded his authority, or was there something that the internal staff didn't go through the process where they get the 3 signatures, they get the two signatures on the check, that they get through the 3 estimates, that's right, that's what we're
Okay,
talking.
Yeah, that's what we're
That's
talking
what we're
about.
talking
So,
about.
okay, now I get what we're saying.
Yeah, that's the control, so. Yeah, right? Okay.
Because going back to that same situation, there's checks in the checkbook, they only have 1 signature. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. I just wanted to add that there is a delineation between an auditor and a forensic auditor. They are trained specifically, the forensic auditors, to investigate certain things that just a normal CPA accountant isn't. And it looked like there was a little bit of confusion about that, and I wanted to state it for the record. I did hear the confusion. Thank you.
Okay. All right,
I got something real quick, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Cosby.
I was going to save this for, this part of this for member forum, but Kurt Cosby, I'm sorry, it's Kurt Cosby, 6839 Marlin Street. You guys had the board president had a gentleman here brief the members on forensic audits. The gentleman repeated over and over, forensic audit is conducted when there's a suspected crime. And how do you find a suspected crime? When people within the organization talk to each other. Mr. Dabney has a full file of information. As anybody, and during a couple different times, Mr. Dabney had that file of information, he kept holding it up, asking questions, and being shut down. My question is, have any of y'all looked at the file that Mr. Dabney has?
We all have it. Well, these 3 have it, and I have it. And what he was actually holding up was payments from Hidden Creek. It wasn't necessarily from this one.
Okay, well, it just seemed like it was very confusing last month, and now it seems it's getting more confusing.
Okay. All right, so motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. All right. Employee handbook, Mr. Cross.
All right. So if you turn to page 2, I did a brief kind of summary of what the changes are. Actually, it's a little bit more formatted because Emerald did help to clean it up for the board handbook. So it's cut down from the original handbook that we currently have. It's about half of what that is. We took out all the Employment Acts and the explanation, examples EEO, FLSA, ADA.
Could you bring the microphone closer?
Yes.
You took out what?
EEO, FLSA, ADA, because it would say ADA and then have a large paragraph explanation. And per legal, we can have a cited sheet at the end of the book that would say all of the laws that we do follow as a company. The conflict of interest policy to encompass multiple policies and standards, removal of gifts, entertainment, and solicitation policies, because the FCA has strict laws regarding kickbacks, removal of moonlighting, because you cannot control an individual's income source unless it competes with company business. The nepotism policy includes all relationships, including friends, steps. Conflict of interest disclosure procedure. This prevents friends and family from working for each other and supports a step-away procedure or abstain from comment on friend or family employment reviews, the write-up process, etc. We updated the pay period and PTO policy to reflect that we have a use it or lose it PTO policy currently. Added in a complaint escalation procedure to include the board of directors. This gives the opportunity of an outside of staff opinion under the conflict of interest. A conflict of interest board member would have to abstain from comment. Termination process phrasing changed to better reflect manager and human resources to be involved in disciplinary action. And company reimbursement of education. This is a new process to Honeywell Water, has been a standard since the early 90s. If we reimburse an employee for education or pay for certifications, a work agreement with a length of expiration of company interest. So page 1 through 66 is the actual list of all of our different policies and procedures. After that, you'll have your certification, licensing, or continuing education policy, where the amount of course or classes kind of dictates what the expectation would be that you work minimally with Honeywell Water. We've got our disclosure of personal conflict of interest form, and then a sheet after that for conflict of interest names within the company. Quite extensive.
Okay.
So we're presenting this because we are replacing the one that was originally written in 2016. So we would have to have everybody's vote on this, since a lot of the policies are put in there that we had updated per request from the board, and to make sure that everybody has proper guidelines.
And our legal HR representative has reviewed as well, correct?
I didn't hear what you told them,
So
sir.
our HR legal representative has reviewed it.
So we get the comment on it?
Yes?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mark.
At last month's meeting, it wasn't ready yet, and we asked, can we get this document as soon as, it's available for us to review? And for the record, I got my packet on Saturday afternoon, not Friday. I don't know when everybody else got theirs, but my timestamp's Saturday. It's 70 pages. We had asked for a red line version that shows what was changed. I'm not comfortable voting on this tonight. I'd like to table it.
I was gonna bring up the same things, Mark.
Okay. So you're gonna review it
Is
for
there a
next
way to
month?
get a red line
Yes.
so
Well,
you can
actually-
see what you changed?
We actually revamped the whole thing because it had outdated stuff. It had ADA stuff when you can go to the ADA sort of thing. So,
It may very
which is
well
why
be
I,
approved.
well, and which is why I asked for the summary of changes on the front. But if you want to table it and move it to next month so you have a chance to review it.
I would like for staff to give us a list of all things that were omitted from this version and everything that was added, not just a summary. I would like to know the details. I don't know how long it took for staff to write this. I'm assuming it was a very long time, certainly longer than it certainly took them longer than the 3 days that we were given to review it.
Okay.
I don't like getting things that, 3 days before we're expected to vote on them, and that's what it seems like happens just about every meeting we have.
Okay.
Something gets thrown into us, and then we're expected to vote on it, and we don't have any idea what we're voting on.
Okay.
Basically, you want a tracked copy.
Yes. Which is what we were told by staff that we would
Well,
be
with the
given
maximum,
before
with all
this
the changes
meeting.
on it, it's gonna be very hard to read, but it'll be a tracked copy, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know that we can go back to that because it literally was a full rewrite, but we will attempt to get you what you're asking for.
And even if I have to sit down with the two manuals and side by side and go through them myself, I need time to do that. It's 70 pages, and I just didn't
That
have
should be
time in
possible.
3 days.
That should be a very better.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this item until next month.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Do we
Yes.
want to, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Or, so they're gonna email us a red line copy, email to all of us?
No, he's gonna, I think he'll give us a copy of the old one and a copy of the new one, and we get to go look through them. Is that what you want to do?
No.
You want a red line copy? Well, you
Yes.
just shook your hand at.
No, I asked for a red line copy last time. If they want to give us a copy of everything they've taken out and everything they've put in, I will agree to that. I will not agree for them to give me this one and that one and for me to go through it and figure out what's different.
Okay, don't get hostile, I'm just asking a question.
So, okay,
Can I,
Do we want to, okay,
is it possible for all of us to sit down and go through page by, because that was
No.
where the difficulty came, was when I went to try and say, how do I send this out? It would be like 2 different versions of the same book completely written, so it was very difficult, because I said to different people, the entire thing it's written completely different, all the pages are different. So I didn't know how to send that to say, there's not a comparison to say, if you look at page 4, it's now different on page 4 here, when page 4 is completely wiped out. So,
and that's why I say it was a complete rewrite, so,
Let's take this for instance. I noticed there's a vehicle policy in this employee handbook. We have a current vehicle policy. There's a difference between those two policies, I'm assuming. So staff should be able to tell us the difference between those two policies. Or is
Okay.
that impossible?
okay. Had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Don?
I'm just curious what we're getting.
We will attempt to give you changes and details from the previous edition to this one, because it's a complete rewrite, which is why I thought the summary of changes, if we went through it and read it, we'd be able to say, yeah, I agree with that. That goes with along our current policy, especially since our HR expert and our legal representative have already said it covers that side of it. So it would be just basically the internal workings of what we feel as a board, so.
do we want to discuss it all? I have several things that I thought questions I wanted to ask about this new version. Do we want to even do those tonight, or we just want to wait till I ask them next time when you get there?
Nope, we will attempt to send you within the next week.
Okay.
Can you email your concerns, and then that way we at least know what you're looking at?
Well, I would-
I'm doing the same thing as I go through it.
I would hope as you go through it, the discussion is that everything comes to Jared so that we can get those compiled. So by the time we get here next month, everybody's had their say, everybody's had their read, and we can look and say, yes, it's in there, we're done.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'd like to, but I think rather than us come here next month and bring up issues that it's the first we've heard of it, it's better if we just kind of go ahead and, these are my concerns, and these are Don's concerns, and these are James, and then that way we can kind of have a better chance of approving it next month.
Yep.
Let me ask,
Okay.
can I ask a couple questions of legal, of overriding questions then? Do we need to define up front what a Holly Navarre employee is? In other words, does it apply to Messy employees and the Club at Hidden Creek employees too? Because that's not stated in here. So I think you need to say Holly Navarre Water System and all wholly owned subsidiaries, if that's the intent. If it doesn't apply to them, then Holly Navarre Water System employees is fine.
so this one is specifically for Holly Navarre Water, because there are subtle differences with the Messy and the club.
Okay.
So a full-time employee at the club is slightly different than a full-time employee at Holly
I
Navarre
think you need
Water.
to specify that in,
Actually, our Messy is required to comply with that personnel policy with exceptions that are previously.
okay,
outlined.
that's fine. But I just want to make sure it's clear in everybody's mind when we're enforcing the rules. And the other thing is, does it apply to directors? It applies to officers, does it apply to directors too? That's a question for legal, I guess. You know?
What was your
What
question?
would be your recommendation? Is this handbook going to apply to directors also?
I can get a clarification from our legal just to.
Okay,
The board would have, the board can make it applicable to whomever the board decides.
okay.
But if the question is whether as drafted it applies, we can look at that. And if there's a preference, let me know.
Okay.
My preference would be applies to us too, but anyway. Okay, that's all I got for now. I'll send the rest of them to Jared. Most of them are inconsequential compared to that.
All right. We had a motion and a second to table it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Jared, a week, less than a week to get it to us?
With red lines, is Monday next week okay?
Yep, that's fine. That'll give us 3 weeks to go through it. Okay. All right, member claim process, so.
I'd like to comment on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Carmen.
That's okay. Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. I saw what you all went through with that, and I would like to suggest that in the future, to make it better for the directors, that you establish a policy of the red line editing so that it's more simplistic for you all and streamlined. Number two, a point of contention has been the nepotism policy, and I want to know if that means that the families can hire their families in, and as long as it's not directly in the hierarchical structure, directly in line of supervision, if this is going to be the policy from here on in.
There is a nepotism policy. It states that you cannot hire your family or best friends in. And if there are 2 members of the family in the company, they can't be in the same line of supervision.
So you can bring your family in, just put them in a
But you
different
would not be hiring.
organizational structure.
Right.
The hiring manager, where they're going, would be hiring them, not you.
Right,
Thinking
as long
about-
as you're not the CEO. Gotcha, thank you.
And that does happen quite a bit as the managers do the hiring, not
And
necessarily.
that happens quite a bit in industry too. Anybody, the family member not can apply for a job, but the individual that's in their direct line of supervision can't be the hiring authority for that position. Or the raises, or the merit bonuses, or anything else to do with it.
It's never happened here until about 2 years ago.
I disagree with that.
And in this.
There was
rewrite,
directors
there
that were
is a-
hired.
There is a conflict of interest
Yep.
form that
Yeah.
someone has to put
Yep.
out. I have a conflict because I went to high school with Jimmy John or, whoever.
Yeah.
So there are some improvements. It's, it looks like overall it's a good improvement to our employee manual. I need more time to digest it.
Understood?
You got it?
Okay. All right, so members claim reimbursement request form. So recently, for whatever reason, we've had a lot of members claiming that the water system has done something and they've incurred costs for it. So ran this through legal, pulled a claims process. So basically, this is a form that will go to the member. It talks about the policy and procedures. It actually calls out who's actually responsible for damage, what tiling of our water system, where our responsibility begins and ends, and it gives them actually a route to make a claim for damage. The process will be that the subject matter experts, the folks over there, sit down, discuss it. Could this have happened? Could this have not have happened? Did our stop check valve cause your toilet to overflow, sort of thing? And then it goes back to the member. Obviously, they have the right to appeal it, and they still have the right to, if they feel it necessary, to take us to small claims court and that sort of thing. It doesn't take the place of court action. So, didn't have one, thought we needed one because I have quite a few sitting in my inbox waiting there for disposition. Discussion.
My comment on the form is I think there needs to be more room for the customer to describe there's 3 lines to describe the damage.
Right.
I think and there's room at the bottom to spread that down.
I thought we had a place for attach more further information. I guess I had just assumed that there would be, if you can't fit it on this one, you attachments or whatever. I just we didn't want it to be a 3 or 6 page form.
I agree, but there's space at the bottom where you could add,
Okay.
3 more lines and not go to a second sheet.
Okay.
That's my comment.
Add 3 lines.
Or you can just say additional information if you wish to provide it in an attachment.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve the claim form and move forward with the process. No?
I'll approve the claim form as, including Mark's adjustments.
Second.
You said you're gonna look through it.
No, I said I will approve it.
Oh, okay, I thought you said, sorry, I thought you said look
With
through.
Mark- Well, I will approve it
Got
with
it.
Mark's adjustment.
Okay, I thought you said
All right,
look
make a
through.
motion for approval
All right,
with
so
Mark's
there's a
adjustment.
first and a second. All right,
So where are these lines gonna go, Mark?
we'll add it. And
Okay.
we'll add a line to say if you need more,
Put it
attach
in
a
a
sheet.
two font and
Yeah,
then
it's
it's
just-
If you're good with that.
Yeah, it needs to be more of a description. What was the damage? When was the damage repaired? Where was the location of the damage? What caused the damage? I think it needs to be what is the damage? What's the description of the damage?
I would also like to put in a statement, if additional space is needed, you can add an attachment.
Yeah.
Only if Daryl's willing to amend his motion.
Okay, to include Bill's adjustment as well.
You gonna second that as well?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Can change our slides up there. So the CEO hiring committee. We currently have 54 resumes. 2 of them are internal. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 27th. And at that time, all the directors should have had their ranking 1 through 5. So we can discuss and move on to interviews. Directors, did I forget anything?
So we're bringing in our top 5 or
Up-
ranking them
up
all
to
1 through
5.
5?
If you want to rank 1 through 10,
Nope, just wondered what you meant, 1 through 5.
1 through
If we
5.
only have left, if we have less than 5, we just bring what we got in range.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Carmen?
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre, just a comment. It would have been extremely helpful if you all had opened up a position from the member public to sit on your hiring committee, but that wasn't done, and I'm just saying in the future, that would be very helpful for optics and trust in our system. And I do know, because someone contacted me and told me that they recommended me to assist and sit on the hiring committee, but I am overcommitted. But still, the point needs to be made that the public, 1 person or 2, could have been added to your hiring committee so that it was inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, on to new business. So CEO updates. So Ms. Brenda Stevens did 26 years for the Holly Navarre Water System, recently retired on October 4th. Had a nice send-off for her. 26 years up in member services, so we appreciated that. We gave her the opportunity to come and us say our congratulations, but she was already enjoying retirement. Which means we also have 2 new members, 2 new employees at member services. So they're heavy into training, and we're having some back coverage for that so that until they get up to speed. And then we have 2 new folks in water ops, so that's a good story there. I think we're only have 1 left open position in water ops, if I remember correctly. That's it, the wastewater, right? Or no, that's the line. The line. Okay, easements at Holly by the Sea and the Woodmont area, they've all been cleared. If you have noticed, they now have do not trespass temporary signs up there with padlocks so that folks don't go plowing through there and run over the sewers and everything. So we're preparing a letter to go to, as a matter of fact, legal has just finished it and gave it to us. A letter to go out to all those that are affected to remind them that it is an easement for utilities. We've already had people start throwing debris back there, and if we ever had to go in there and do it, clear it. So we've started the evaluation phase now so that the folks that are actually going to come in and make sure the sewer lines are operating accordingly and that they're all sealed and that nobody's putting stormwater into our sewer lines is correct. So that's ongoing. The Eglin lease. So we have it on good authority that the county has signed the latest and greatest Tomorrow, we are meeting to confirm our plan of action so that as soon as the lease is signed by the Air Force, it's out in San Antonio now, as soon as it's signed by them, we can go out and start the bid process, and that, I think we have all of our permits ready. The easements going up are still in motion, and that, obviously, legal counsel is just chomping at the bit to get moving with that. So we're told we should have it this week. God willing, and the creek don't rise. So in one of our meetings, our closed meetings, we talked about with the directors. So the FBI is going to come visit us next week, as well as FDLE. Part of their charter is to look at utilities for cyber. So they're going to come and look at our cyber posture. A couple hours. I'm hoping that what they'll present us is the threat briefs, so that then we can make sure that the cybersecurity staff we have are engaged in that. And our 2 IT folks already have cybersecurity degrees, so we're moving forward on that. And then the last thing to brief on really is kind of bad news, not bad news. So Holly Navarre Water, like everybody, is victim of the supply chain issues. So we were hoping to be in our building next month. We are waiting for electrical panels and the fuses that go fit in those electrical panels. And we actually have no idea when they're going to ship to us. So until that happens, what will happen then, as soon as those come in, we'll have to give them a couple of days to spin that up, and then we can actually move in. So even if we had the boardroom ready, we still wouldn't have that. So until that comes in, there's nowhere for us to go. So unfortunate, but
Mark doesn't have an inside scoop on those?
no, we don't. We do have our update tomorrow, so maybe there'll be some good news tomorrow. Maybe at the last minute we'll learn that we got them, but we're doing our monthly brief with the building people. I believe it's tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow. Okay, enough CEO. Finance. Ms. Kim, I'll let you lead this.
Okay, thank you. If we take a look at the finance report for August, we are reporting a profit for the month of $38,637, which brings our annual net profit to $403,829.71. Looking at the drivers that impacted the month, our taps were still lower than expected for both water and sewer. Although water taps were up from July, water and wastewater sales also both down from the month of July. We had an annual heavy vehicle use tax that we paid in the other taxes, licenses, and dues. Computer expense for a 6-watch engineer to remote in. There was a vehicle expense for new brakes on the safety truck, which cost $2,407.56. Postage, this for August included postage for June, July, and August shipping costs. And then in water tools, we purchased 2 chlorine colorimeters for $1,100. If you look at the next pages, our revenues were just slightly below budget for all of our taps and water sales and wastewater sales, and then our other revenues again exceeded the budget. And for our expenses, all expenses for G&A, water, and wastewater all stayed underneath budget for the month of August.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions on any of the budget?
Well, Mr. President, I still have the same questions. I'm assuming we still, last meeting and for at least at one meeting we had during the month, I've asked for a detailed general ledger on the merchant charges and the
Tips.
Tips.
Yes, I
charge tips.
I got it.
And we still don't have them, and those accounts are still wrong on here. So,
Yeah,
are we still writing checks out of hauling of our water system to pay for the utilities bills and various other expenses at the club at Hidden Creek.
Are we discussing hauling of our water or the club at Hidden Creek right now?
Both. In other words, is hauling of our water system still writing a check every month for the utilities bills, the electricity bill at the golf course?
I believe there are 2 electric bills that are paid by hauling of our water
Okay,
for the pump house.
okay. Then, yes. So,
As far as your other request, that was my bust. We got lost on our emails. They have it, so we should have it to you in the next couple of days.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my bust. It got
All right.
hidden behind.
Is the Jerry Pate irrigation, is that a Hidden Creek expense?
The Cherry Perry irrigation was for spray field parts and software.
Is it software required to run a golf course or software to run?
Software
required
required to run the spray field on the golf course. The software and hardware was approved in the motion that we paid last month to be paid for by hauling of our water. And the spray field expense out of their wastewater.
So the, okay.
Any other discussion on the financials? I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials.
I move to approve the August 22 financials.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Me.
James, are you an aye or a nay?
I'm an aye, because I'm still trying to, I'm just trying to look at some of these check registers now that they're in here, and I did not get the chance to look at it either, so.
Okay. Finance Committee updates, Director Thiel.
Okay, Director Lynch, did you have anything on the Eglin project? I don't think you had a meeting this month because you're waiting for the lease. Do you have anything to add?
We didn't, and yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been invited to any meetings. I don't know if staff's not setting them up or if I'm just not allowed to do them anymore. But
No,
as far as I know, for the past 2 months, Daryl Lynchard hadn't been anywhere near the Eglin project.
Okay.
Well, that was that part of that, because I was there as well. So, and you can't have two because of the sunshine law. So, but Mark actually, no, I hear what you're saying. And Mark mentioned changing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's going to be an issue for the foreseeable future, you know, I think we need our CEO there more than we need another director there. And as much as I like Daryl to stay part of that, if he can't be there because of the sunshine, which I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around why 2 of our directors can't be there, but whatever, if that's the ruling, then maybe we need to put Joe in charge of that committee and put Daryl in charge of budget, because Mike's currently our budget director. I don't know how Daryl feels about that.
So does Santa
I'd
Rosa
like to
County,
work
do they
with
not
budget.
allow 2 commissioners to go to the meetings, only 1?
Yeah, only one.
Only one. And Dave Peach is the representative. Was that your motion?
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion that the finance committee chairs be changed and that the chair for the Eglin project be Joe Campbell and that Daryl be the chair of the budget committee.
Okay. I'm good with it.
So I'll second that for discussion. I thought what we said and where you wanted to go was, instead of stating Joe, say the CEO should be, so whoever's in that seat. Did I misunderstand what you meant?
Well,
I thought you wanted the CEO on there.
I think we have to have our CEO, acting CEO, attend those meetings.
I agree, so all I'm asking,
But he's also the president and a director, and so he'll be attending as CEO / director / chair.
and when we hire a new CEO, does that have to change?
It doesn't have to, but if,
Okay.
you know, Joe doesn't want
The
to do it.
CEO
Daryl
should be
wants
able to go in addition to,
Yeah,
Yeah,
most,
yeah,
most,
CEO
yeah,
can go in addition to a director.
Okay.
yeah.
So
because he's not a director, so it won't violate the
we
sunshine
can
law.
change these committee chairs whenever.
No, I thought you wanted the CEO per se, not.
Well, he did,
When
yeah,
when the CEO wasn't a director, we had both Daryl
Okay.
and the previous E CEO.
So that's my motion.
okay. And you second?
Second.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Daryl, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Theo, I'm going to let you talk about the pension plan trustees part.
No, let me do the capital improvements first of all.
Oh,
We had a
sorry.
meeting this month on the capital improvements. Director Linnell was unable to attend. He's got a full-time job, so he missed this one. He'll make the future ones. Nothing significant to report. The unrestricted budget for 2022 was a little over $4 million. To date, we've spent only 1.607 of that. That's largely because the Eglin project's slipping and sliding and hasn't been incurring the expenses, so we're not anticipating we're going to come anywhere near spending the $4 million this year, which just means we'll have to spend more next year. In the reserve, or the restricted budget, that budget was $2,245,000 for this year, and we're right on course at 1.78. So we're pretty much right on glide slope there for spending the money in the capital improvement budget in those areas. Nothing was added, nothing was taken off from the CIP list as previously approved.
Okay, sorry about that. All right.
And the budget thing, I don't have anything else. We had a budget meeting too, and Director Lynch was invited, but couldn't make it. So anyway, I chaired that one also, and we didn't have anything that was noteworthy to bring up that wasn't discussed when we went over the budget, financials. That's
Okay.
it.
But that committee's about to heat up because we're in budget season.
Yeah,
We are?
we're waiting for I've been invited to the initial one where they started drawing it up, but we haven't.
We're getting ready for two
worker
by
bees are working
twos
on it now.
next week, I believe.
Yep.
If not the end of this week, next week.
Can y'all announce those meetings through the email and, just when they are? and-
Well, no, because we're going to do two by twos like we did for the rate analysis.
Oh, okay.
So you get the hand in
Okay,
there and then we'll.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And we can only have
Yep.
so 3 people there anyway.
Right, I understand.
Okay, pension plan. Trustees, update of administrators, Director Theo. I guess this,
Okay, yeah, as of right now, there's only one trustee administrator, and that's myself, because Director Kennedy and I were the two, and obviously he's resigned, so he's been removed. I had to sign a signature removing him from the trustee. So the question before the board is, do you want to appoint another trustee, or do you want to wait till after the first of the year when we have a new board member so we can appoint somebody else to be a trustee? I've talked to Wells Fargo, they're perfectly comfortable with having only one. They have a lot of organizations that have only one. If you want to have 2, I'm all open to that too. I don't care. The person down there has just to go through some paperwork.
right, but because we're having some retirees now, that has an impact of the allotments that go out, right? So would it be beneficial is that a finance question or is that an HR
It's
question?
pretty much standard that what they've accrued and earned, it's all in the pension plan. So all I do is approve the authorization to pay out whatever they ask for.
Okay,
But
No,
again, I don't,
any discussion?
because when that came up for the last individual, it was either myself or Mike had to approve it, not both of us.
Are we good with Bill to the end of the year? 2 months?
I'm fine.
I mean, doesn't it say that,
We have to remove Mr. Kennedy.
Right.
Obviously, that's a
He's been
motion.
removed.
but Bill is on there, James Dabney's on there, and Joe Campbell?
No, that's
Or not?
incorrect.
That's an error.
No, that's,
Those 2 are not on.
we are not on the pension plan trustees. Any thoughts?
Bill's the sole trustee right now, correct?
Correct.
And I'm good with it staying that way until the new board.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Do we need a motion?
We will.
Okay. Well, I'll move that with Mr. Kennedy being removed, that Bill Teal will remain the only trustee for the remainder of this year until the new board is elected.
Okay. I'll second that. Discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay.
I'll abstain.
Okay, Board of Directors remote attendance. So in the past, I guess what has happened is, as and when the board had motions to approve remote attendance, and it kind of went, whichever side wanted to get more on site, that sort of thing. So this resolution actually talks about how to do it, the fact that Florida statute approves this, and the fact of what happened in previous boards in 2016. It really just makes it so that if one of us is gone on vacation and need to attend, we can still attend via any social media platform, which our IT folks says we have the capability. It just talks about keeping it, you can't do it you must physically attend at least 60% of the meetings. You have to be physically present. They have to see you on the camera, and it takes 48 hours notice to the directors so that all the other directors know the issues. That's it in a nutshell.
So will this be a Zoom meeting, not just a telephone
Zoom,
call?
Teams, right, not just a telephone call, because we have the capability. You have to, the way the statute is written, you have to be able to see. You can't have the camera hidden in there in your PJs and all that. You have to be physically present. Is that correct, Mr. Dunn?
Mr. President, the statute actually allows for a conference call.
Oh,
It's
okay.
any means of communication
Okay.
by which all directors participating can simultaneously hear each other during the meeting.
I
Okay.
think that's our policy now, isn't it?
The only thing was what this, in February 2016, it talked about allowing remote attendance via phone.
Oh, okay.
And Director Lynch should approve, Mr. Kelly second. So this just adds the video conferencing to it?
I think that if we're going, or Mr. President, if you don't mind, I think if we're gonna change it, we should make it, probably take out telephone and leave out video conferencing and just say by, some means of communication. In other words, the policy will evolve as technology evolves.
Okay, well, maybe I misspoke and I just assumed it was just video because we had that capability.
Yes, so your policy, the one that's before you, says in paragraph 1 that the board hereby authorizes directors to attend and participate in regular and special meetings through the use of any means of communication by which all directors participating
Right.
may simultaneously hear each other during the meeting.
Now, right here where I got 1C3 basically said if the communications platform is video conference. Okay, so I see phone is authorized as well. Okay,
There was something in there about you have to have in-person attendance at, what, 60% of the meetings?
correct.
Is that room for amendment? I like to make it 2/3, because 60% is like 7.5 or something. So why don't we make it 2/3, which is 8 out of 12?
Isn't there something in the Florida statutes about how you can remove a board member and whether or not it's in the bylaws and whether the board elects someone or the membership elects someone? Seems like there's something in the Florida statutes about that. Do you recall anything?
It's in the bylaws to
There-
remove a board member.
About
You need to vote of the
removal?
membership.
Right.
It's in
Yeah,
the
the
bylaws,
bylaws
you need to
have
vote
the
of membership at an annual
removal
meeting.
process.
Yeah.
To
So
remove
you're
directors.
so you're 60%. What effect
I'm not
does
saying,
that have?
I'm not saying remove, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that we're talking about the number of meetings you have to attend in person as opposed to.
So this would have been like
electronically.
when my dad
Oh,
passed,
okay.
when my
All
dad
right,
passed
I'm good
away,
with
I
that.
could have,
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah,
I'm
you
talking
could've
about
done that,
removing
yeah.
anybody.
well, I didn't know I could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The problems I have with it is the director, 1C, 1 and 2, the director communicates their need of remote attendance 48 hours prior to the meeting. And 1C2, the director uses the communication platform selected by the corporation. If they say I have to do it by Zoom, but I'm going to be driving down I-10 and want to do it by phone, I should be able to do it by phone,
Yeah.
not be required to do a video.
Any electronic means.
Okay.
So
I like our current.
I think it needs a little cleaning up, and 48 hours, why can't we do 24 hours? I mean, that should be plenty of time for IT to set up a phone and do a teleconference. That's how we've done it most of the time in the past, is somebody phones in for the meeting.
Okay. So was that a motion then?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make the motion that we approve this form, but delete C1 and C2.
So you don't want to say C1 be 24 hours?
Or make that say 24 hours and then delete C2.
Okay.
I didn't see that. Oh, it's in the, there it is. It's in the package. That's why I didn't see it.
Yeah. Have we got a
So
motion
Director
on
Miller,
this
I just want to be clear because it's, the paragraphs are numbered 1 through 5, and then under 1, there is A through C. So you're saying delete paragraph 2, which is the director recognized the corporation not responsible for ensuring.
No, not that.
One
In
C,
paragraph 1C2 delete and change 1C1 to 24 hours instead of 48 hours.
Have we got a motion on the table?
He's trying to make one,
Okay, you did make one?
I think I did.
and it's actually B, because there's no B, so it's a B. So the director communicates their need to remote access 24 hours prior, and remove the following paragraph: the director uses a communication platform selected by the corporation. Okay. Any other discussion? That was a motion, right? And a
Yes.
second.
Do we have a second?
We would also, yeah, and another change would be, it
I've got
references
some
48 hours in paragraph 5, we need to change that to 24.
Okay. Director Lynch, or do you have?
Yes, I think that we should table this to the next meeting, and I think that we should table everything that we get handed, whenever we walk in a board meeting. I don't think that we should be given something like this right before we start, and then be expected to vote on it.
Okay.
Can we make those changes and then?
And
come
then
back to
send
us?
it back to everybody before the next
Because
meeting
there's
so
no
we can look
urgency
at
in
it.
this, right? This is just to create a policy for, for future.
Okay.
How about my suggestion to change 60% to 2/3, so that it's an even number, or don't you care? I don't care. I guess I got, if the minimum is 60%, you still got to attend 8 out of the 12, so. It's apples and oranges. Okay, just leave it alone.
Okay. So you rescinded your motion.
Thank you, you're 10 months long.
I'll rescind my motion and motion to table.
Okay.
You might want to second that.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All? No?
I vote no.
Well, if I vote no, we're gonna sit here for another 2 hours and talk about it, right? I mean, is it that difficult that is there anything else in there that, I mean, it's pretty standard.
I don't know, I hadn't had a chance to read it.
It's 4-2, so we'll table it.
Oh, no, I didn't vote yet.
Oh, didn't you?
If you do vote, it still dies.
Yeah. I vote nay, and it'll die, and we'll bring it back next board meeting. All right. Let me get the document retention plan.
Wow.
So, staff has been working on this for 3 months. Each of the staff members have gone through their responsibilities to see what they're allowed to keep, what they have to keep. Legal has looked at it for permanent retention of some, 10-year retention of others, digital retention when necessary. We've got boxes and boxes and boxes of paper that are in the boardroom waiting to be disposed of and scanned in so that we can, once this is approved. So, discussion.
I have one thing for, I think it's an admin thing for paragraph 5, document destruction. The administrator is responsible for the ongoing process of identifying its records that meet the required retention period and overseeing their destruction. I think you mean that no longer meet the required retention period and overseeing their destruction, don't you? Because you can't destroy documents that don't, it doesn't read right to me. We're talking about document destruction, when you can destroy them. You shouldn't say identifying records that meet the required retention period.
Which item are you under, Bill? I'm sorry, I missed.
5.
5, document destruction. I think it should read, the administrator is responsible for the ongoing process of identifying its records that no longer meet the required retention period and overseeing their destruction. I think that reads more clearly.
Yep.
Otherwise, you got kind of a double negative to me, but that's the English major
Okay.
that I've never majored in.
Any discussion there?
I've got a question. Since I've got about 20 years worth of documents and most people don't even know what, whenever I come and people have questions at this board, I can give you the history of it. At one point, I was the only one that had a copy of our Articles of Incorporation. So you're gonna tell me and all the other board members that have been on here in the past that we've gotta get rid of everything, or no?
I think the Articles of Incorporation are on a permanent list to keep.
They are now. 10 years ago, they weren't.
If I recall the discussion on that board, keeping that, we were going to look to move that into the board code of conduct.
Okay.
So it was applicable to the board.
Okay, so we're gonna take that
So
out of this.
because obviously, once you're no longer a director, you're not entitled to those anymore.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I believe, who was in that discussion? Jared, Amber, I'm pretty sure that was in the board code of conduct, not, this is for staff.
Oh, okay, so this doesn't deal with the board then?
I didn't, yeah.
Okay.
See anything in it for the board, it's all for record.
Unless you want to include the board.
No, it just seemed like there was something in here that
And the other-
referred to directors.
The other
Go ahead.
comment I had on the destruction is, if there's anything in here about how you destroy electronic documents, so do we need to specify that, or just understanding it oversees their destruction, assumes that they're gonna take a hammer to it or whatever? Bleach bit.
Oh, hang on a second,
I'd
Derek.
say that my stuff has to be fully shredded and annihilated.
And we do have some shredders that meet classified destruction procedures.
Okay, but how about electronic stuff? Do you,
We do have electronic BC wipe and that sort of stuff.
okay, all right,
Actually,
that's
white.
fine, that's, as long as you, I will agree that that's overseeing their destruction, includes electronic media, then I don't have an issue for it, that's all. I didn't see it specified in there. And you said before, once we convert to electronic copies, that we have electronic versions of it, we can destroy the paper copies, is that the way I read it?
Yes, if
That's
you've
the
been
way I
in the
read it.
boardroom and you saw all that
Yes,
paper
it-
that's in there, yeah, that's like 28 years worth of, probably more than that.
Do we heat backups of the electronic copies, I assume then? so
We
you
have iCloud, we have secure storage, yes.
All right,
So I'm told.
that's all I got then.
Now, Daryl, to answer your question, the only paragraph here is in 1D. It says guidance for the board of directors, officers, staff, and other with respect to responsibilities concerning document retention and destruction.
Where's that at?
The very first paragraph, about 3/4 of the way down. But it doesn't specifically say that when a director's no longer, and that's where I'd assume that would go in a board
Okay.
code of conduct.
So guidance for board of directors,
Right.
but not necessarily
Correct.
applicable to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the current practice that, on all of this? Are we keeping everything? So, right, well, I mean, no, there's a practice. We might not,
Well,
we
but
might
it,
not have a
yeah,
policy.
but it's not standard. Some people are pack rats and they'll keep 50 years. Others, I take it with me when I go and that sort of thing. So this just solidifies, right? Right, is that a true statement?
Yeah, so HR has legal requirements, we have to destroy things within a certain amount of time, but we got stuff from finance, customer service, from inception of the
Yep. Because it's like, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like cut members' account records, when we should keep them, when we should not. There's no current policy that says when, 4 years after you're no longer a member, that we destroy it,
Yeah.
just in case there's some, so this kind of
Yeah.
puts it in record. All right?
There's a lot of this stuff on here that I don't know what the law requires, and I don't know,
That's why we had legal review it.
yeah, I know.
Your firm reviewed this?
All right, any other discussion?
I make a motion, we approve the document as written with the one correction of, that I made in paragraph 5.
Okay. I'll second.
So what was, who reviewed it? You say legal?
Yes, sir. Each directorate reviewed it, went through their legal requirements, and then it went to legal to review to make sure we kept the things we had to, like tax records and that sort of stuff, but that we got rid of the HR employment records that we couldn't have after a certain period.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, kind of like Mark, I don't know what the requirements are, don't know what they are.
Okay. Have a motion and second?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir?
may I ask, as you were reading paragraph 1D, I continued to read there, and I believe I believe the "and" is not supposed to be there, and I don't believe the possessive S to Holly Navarre Water System. So if you'll look at that sentence, the third sentence up from the bottom of paragraph, the purpose paragraph, policy is designed to facilitate
Yeah.
HNWS possessive, and I believe that "and" should be deleted and that S should be deleted. So I would ask if the motion could include that in addition to the change to the Director Thiel said to paragraph 5 to add the words "no longer."
I'll add it to my motion.
Okay, thank you. Legal counsel. And I'll reiterate my second. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
I'm a nay.
Okay, 4-2, motion carries. All right, commercial impact fees. So, back when Director Lynchard was president in December 2020, they passed a commercial impact fee usage review policy that said every year commercial review of usage would come into play, so that if you had your business back in 1979 and you paid X as an impact fee, and 20 years later it has grown 3 times that amount, you're using more than you've paid for. So we've reviewed those. We actually had some instances where there was no records on what impact fee they'd ever paid. So staff did a great job and actually saved some of our customers quite a bit of money by readdressing of where they came into, and it basically reassessed and said in 2000, if we charged X and there's no records, we'll go back to 2000 and that's what you'll pay. So basically this actually, because it was at that time made it a motion to be 2 years implement, well, we're at the 2-year mark. So this actually just updates the policy, but it also clarifies how we do that, so that this would come into effect beginning in this March's bill. And then customers would owe $1,000, how we would process them. And then anything more than that, it would look to how we would produce that. Initially, it was that all those requesting waivers or financing of these impacts fees would come to the board. The engineering and the staff had said, well, what if the board designated to the CEO for a certain amount, just like we do everything else, but it also has the financing base rate and then plus 2% down sort of thing, or sorry. And the last paragraph, it talks about what the financing would be, the fiber rate plus 2% sort of thing, so.
That's if they finance it through
If they-
Holly Navarre Water
If they
System.
finance it through, yes, Holly Navarre Water finances those impact fees.
Do we need to put that in there, or is that, I guess that's a given?
No, it's in the recommendation, but it's on that last page, if they finance through us.
I didn't see that, but anyway, okay, good.
So it's literally just clarifying the December 15, 2020 policy.
I've been hearing a little bit of buzz on this. I guess it's starting to affect some of the
It is.
customers. And
It is.
so I'd be curious if, do we have an idea of about, how many businesses are being affected or getting adjustments to their impact fees? Is that an Amber question or?
Amber, I thought the figure 13 comes to mind, but I'm not sure if that's,
Oh, it's not many accounts at all, relative to the total number of commercial accounts, it's actually very few. And the list, you know, they basically had 2 years to get ready for what's coming in January, which is the first official calculation. Mark, I would hesitate to say number of accounts, I was gonna say 16, so.
13 rings my, just for some reason, somewhere along the line, I think that's what Corey was mentioning.
And I believe I'm speaking correctly when I say that there is now only one significant charge that's coming for someone that has not come to Holland Bar and spoken with Holland Bar. Is that correct? I don't want to mention any names because I'm
Yes.
fair in this setting.
Yep.
but-
We did have one customer come up, sit down with staff, we reassessed that.
Yeah.
That's when we went back to the policy, because neither of us had records, them or us.
And
And that's where we came up with, hey, let's go back to 2000, that's a good starting point, and we knew what we charged back then, so.
Yeah, and there's, over the 2 years, there's been several people that have come in and you know, their past history has been discussed and changed or adjusted to be fair to them when there's no record that exists. But Mark, I couldn't tell you what the total number of accounts, but we can get.
No, I'm not looking for an exact number. 15 to 20 or 13 to 20 is, if that's a good number,
I think
that's,
that's in the ballpark, Mark,
Yeah.
from the last time I heard from Corey. I don't actively follow that on a day-to-day basis. The only number I know I have in my head, because it's one of those things that, you know, there's one significant impact fee change to one customer who has not approached any staff or anyone else, which is surprising given the magnitude, but it's the only one of that magnitude on the list at all, so.
and,
You know, that 13 number might be where we went back and reassessed and it went down from our initial. That may be where I'm getting that number.
Yeah,
But
that-
anyways,
and all of these customers were given what their current usage is running and what they paid for, and they had a period of time during which they could implement measures to reduce their use, and either they have or they
Yep.
haven't. So-
2 years.
And there were, in the original list, in the first evaluation, there was more than one significant impact fee change. The largest, I think they were the largest, actually completely changed how much water they were using, if you know what I'm talking about. They were just doing what we feared, which was, to them, water was just free, essentially. Even as large as their bill was every month. But when you start talking about impact fee, they cut their water use, I'm talking substantially, so.
So in that, what about the people who got charged significant amount of money then are not using it? There was no benefit to those people to come back and say, hey, review my bill. I think I'm being overcharged, or I was overcharged.
I'm not sure.
Do you review all commercial customers so that those were overcharged in impact fees? Do they get a credit then for that?
I don't believe anybody was overcharged.
No, I don't know that anybody was overcharged. Why would someone be overcharged?
Well, because
If they're using
for the
less.
same reason
You're asking to pay
when you
for
set it up, you do your best information.
So impact fees are a reservation of capacity. When you come in here to this utility, you have every opportunity to impress upon Holly and Bar what your actual use is going to be. Holly and Bar goes so far, in fact, to not use the state's list, but to actually let you provide evidence of what your water will be. And generally speaking, whatever you say it's going to be at this point is what Holly and Bar accepts, as long as it's reasonable.
Okay.
But it is a reservation of capacity in recognition that your business might use that much water. So there is no refund if you're below it.
Okay. I think that was your question, wasn't it, James?
Yeah, it just seemed to me it's a, I mean, if we figured the bill and we figured it wrong, we charge the customer more. If you're telling me the customer comes in and says, I'm only gonna use 100 gallons, but Holly and Water says you're gonna use 300 gallons, but we're gonna accept your 100 gallons, and in 2 years, we're gonna bill you the 200 gallons.
if a developer comes in here for a restaurant and says, I'm gonna use X amount of water, and that's reasonable for that type of restaurant in this area in Northwest Florida, we'll accept that. Because if he's lying, if he doesn't want to present evidence for other locations, that gets picked up under this policy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the purpose of this policy.
I mean, I understood I know the difference, obviously, in the restaurant part. You know, some people use paper plates, some people use hard plates.
Oh, and we take that into account.
And when I signed up, I knew that was a part of it, so.
Okay. So basically, looking for what the board feels on basically the last 3 lines is what really has not changed, but to clarify how we actually implement this, and that we will actually implement the billing in March. Any other board discussion?
Let's see here.
We have
Yeah. I thought Daryl was going to say something. Ms. Carmen? Daryl, you wanted, or can I let Ms. Carmen?
No, go ahead.
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. Just for the record, I believe the gray tap room was caught up in that. I remember years ago when that was an issue that they had been overcharged, and the board had to work with them to help them recoup that overcharge. So just so you all know that. The gray tap room.
We tend not to name
Oh,
account
I'm sorry.
customers. That's all right.
It was for the record, so to
It's in
clarify
all the
what you all
minutes and
didn't know.
transcripts. No, it's in all the minutes and transcripts, and theirs was a little different situation because it was an add-on to an existing business, and, you know, they weren't gonna be brewing their own beer, they weren't gonna be, a standalone restaurant serving food. You know, there were a lot of circumstances that went into their situation, and we did offer them a review after the fact.
Okay. Daryl, did you have anything?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the implementation of the commercial impact review policy, just changing, again, how we implement the board decision of 2020.
Second.
So moved. Did you move it?
Done, motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, so last month we discovered our insurance renewal. I think we can all agree that the didn't go as it should have. I was not in the seat at that time, did not have anything to do with how the insurance renewal went about. Staff followed directions of the CEO. But then obviously the directors got a letter from our previous agent. So I've actually drafted a response to him with legal's help. And basically, we're going to tell him we're going to start the process early. We hope he gets involved and get engaged, and he will have the opportunity to compete next year. So that's more for information to the board, because you've all seen the letter. I agree with his assessment how it went down. It shouldn't have gone like that. Just wanted to reaffirm to him that we will start it early next year, and we will follow our normal process of 3 bids, and everybody can compete.
Can we all get a copy of that letter?
It should be in
Or
here.
it's in here? Okay.
It might be in the manila folder.
Okay.
It's not in the middle.
And that's
It
a
was-
CEO, not,
It was emailed to everybody, I know that.
no, not that letter.
Oh, you're talking about your letter?
The response to him.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Emerald, we did put it in the manila folder for them? No?
So we don't have a copy.
Send it to us electronically.
Okay. Okay.
Can you email that out to us?
I will email it out to you. Emerald, can you take that for my task, please? Okay, engineering report.
Before we talk about I&I, I will mention that I think last month I briefed the board that a draft permit information fair point for the water use permit, which obviously involves Holland Water System, that permit was finally issued, and Holland Water got exactly what they requested from the Water Management District for the next 10 years. So there's no impediments to what the current projections are. Two I&I, last month was another brutal month with 374,000 gallons per day average I&I. I hope Chris can tell us it's gone down. So, yeah, with no rain, you would expect the groundwater table to be receding, and we see that in other locations. So we don't expect it to stay high, but we did have 2 months there that appear to have averaged over 300,000 gallons a day. So. And again, our reminder is our limit, combined limit at each of our sites, if you add up the individual sites, is 1.968 million. However, the wastewater treatment plant permit was issued with 3 instead of the 4 point whatever it was originally. So DEP still does consider our overall capacity to be that 3, assuming that we don't violate any other condition inside the permit itself in the disposal of that effluent. So.
I have one question, Philip. The breaks, you say estimated total at $1,450,000. How do you come up with an estimate like that? I mean, is that just swag, or you subtract all the rest of them out? It says estimated total for the breaks. Gallons, non-revenues, not accounted for, breaks, estimated total.
You've gone over the water loss?
Yeah.
I can speak to this a little bit, Bill, but this is really Clinton's chart, and he's not here tonight.
Okay.
The amount of water, every day, Olivar tries to eliminate those sources of water that they know they use but don't have metered. Most of those, I'm of the understanding they have eliminated.
Yeah, I know.
You only have the ability to guess when the leak started, and you know when the leak ended when you repaired it. You know the size of the line, you know the pressure in the line. So if you had a backhoe operator trying to install something in the right of way, and he poked a 2.5-inch hole in the pipe using one of the tongs of the backhoe, you can make a reasonable guesstimate of how much water you lost out of that pipe. That's all they can do.
That answers the question. Thank you.
So really going back to the permit, just to add one thing to you. So at some point, we're going to have to go and redo that agreement, right? That's going to come up next week at the Fair Point. So that's for this board to decide, right? So I just want the directors to know that.
Right,
Yeah.
I believe there is an agreement between the members of Fairpoint, and then there's an agreement between the members in Santa Rosa County. The agreement between the members has a schedule of water withdrawal in it. That schedule of withdrawal will change for the next 10 years, so the member agreement will have to be modified. Whether or not anything else in that agreement gets modified will be up to the Fairpoint board and then the individual boards that have to approve that. So we just don't know. But it does have to be modified for the individual utilities withdrawal rates. And that is on the agenda, as I understand it, for next Tuesday.
Check. Okay, thank you, Phil. So I have 2 things that I was remiss at before we go. So the Welfare Protection Group, working group at the county is November 10th. So Fairpoint is going to go and do a presentation. We're going to be on the agenda, but I would encourage, and I know the directors hopefully will be there for that, for Fairpoint. But I would hope that we'd have a hauling of our water system attendance at that, kind of with the 3 groups of utilities to have our say and we're actually going to do a presentation for them with some subject matter experts. So we're on that agenda. And then I should have done this as a start, but for the record, this is Director Kennedy has officially resigned, and I can't remember the exact date, but I'll get that to you. So my legal counsel tapped me on the shoulder for that.
Have amended election notices gone out?
Yes, sir.
Joe, can I make a recommendation? Emerald had sent that letter out to us, and I just read it.
Which letter?
The Anderson, or the insurance part.
Yep.
Would it would it be, I guess, ethical to let them look at our current insurance policy and see if it was equal to, if not the new policy, is it equal to, if not better than what we've had in the years past as far as coverages, to let us know whether or not the current policy that we had to sign is, I guess, financially adequate to what we had before?
It's ethical,
Okay.
if that's a question.
Is
'Cause I mean,
your-
I would think that he's gonna give us an honest opinion if we're paying for something that didn't go out to bid and we went ahead and signed it. Is it equal to what we had prior to for the same amount of money that were supposedly was only a minor increase? I think it was what, 2%? If I remember seeing it correctly?
That's a different, that was
That was the health
health
insurance.
insurance. If it's ethical, we can do that. Are you talking about going to rebid it?
No. I'm just wanting him to, if he would not mind looking at it and let us know if it was a,
Because my understanding is it was not a change in insurance company, it was just a change in agent. But if legal says we can do that, I don't see why we can't.
And my comment is, I don't think all of our policies renew all at once. I think there's different times of the year when policies renew. In fact, I think we've got one coming up in like November or something. Something renews in November, but,
I thought they were all in the spring, but I'll have a
well,
look at that.
most of them happen in the spring, but I think there's some that renew. And so, you know, anything that's about to renew, I'd like to know, you know, are we getting 3 bids on it, you know?
Check.
And you know, is he being given an opportunity to bid?
Yep.
I kind of got the tone from his letter, he didn't feel like he got a good opportunity, wasn't really given a good seat at the table.
Agree.
That's,
But I agree. Okay. All right. Member forum.
Actually, I've got
Okay, go ahead.
as long as the board can. I did have one question. We had spoke about this a couple times too, which was the organizational chart with salaries in it. We've been told several times that we're going to receive a copy of that, and we never get it. Will we be able to get that this month?
Yep.
Any timeline, possibly?
Friday.
Okay. We had a meeting, and you were gonna ask our attorney if there was anything that was, anything that we had at this organization that was off limits legally to the board. In other words, if there was something so sensitive in this organization that a board member couldn't see it. And you were gonna ask him if that was the case or not, because I don't believe it is. Did we get an answer on that question?
I have not sent that yet.
Okay. Would you mind answering it now, or could you answer it?
No, I'd like to have an
Okay.
opportunity to review that.
Okay.
But I think we're basically talking about HR stuff and
Talking about
salaries.
everything.
No.
I think preferably, I mean, we've asked questions on
There might be
salaries,
HR
we
stuff
make budget,
too, but I don't know why.
we can't get
There's
answers on
there's
pay and
absolutely
stuff like that.
nothing we're not entitled to see. There's some things we shouldn't see.
Well, there's a lot of
Okay.
things we can't distribute.
Oh,
It's on my to-do list. Anything else, Joe?
no, that's it.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Cosby, still want to speak?
Kurt Cosby, 6839 Marlin Street. I never received a reply from the BOD president to my 21 September 22 email. I did send it twice. Last month, members were standing at the podium and members had their hands raised. When the BOD president decided he had heard enough on a topic, he would call for a motion silencing the members that were at the podium and the ones with raised hands. Of course, this action is intentional with the BOD president, does not ask, is there anyone else that would like to ask a question or make a comment on this topic? Very concerning the micromanagement of trying to find ways to keeping members off the election ballot. Very concerning that this BOD president wants to stay in the golf course and restaurant business when history shows this BOD and past BODs are unable to manage either one. I would have never joined Facebook a bit over a year ago if it were not for the HBTS HOA BOD. The overreach of BOD presidents, to include this one, have made it clear that they don't like social media. I find it very informative, and I believe the members and neighbors do also. Then you have the local news outlets and local reporters. Everything is fine with these reporters on Facebook, CCON, as long as you agree with them. When you don't, they block you from seeing their content. Very sad, censoring by the at the local level. You would think when the BOD agenda is released, it would be the first thing you see on the Holly Navarre Water System homepage. You would be wrong. I wonder how many more members' requests it will take to add another minute to the members' forum before the BOD president will add that discussion to a BOD agenda.
Ms. Reynolds?
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. I am going to ask for an extension of speaking time for the members and for you all to make a new policy to allow the members of this water system to speak for 4 minutes versus 3 minutes. The Board of County Commissioners extended that right to us in January of 2021. We fought very hard for it and they relented, and we deserve that very much. Therefore, until this policy is implemented, I will withhold my kudos for this board so that I can get my points out to you. If you will allow me those kudos, fine. If you will not, then I guess you will not extend this policy. When driving in my car yesterday with the windows up, the Coral Street Highway 98 lift station was just really ripe. If somebody could please look at that, it smells badly. Number 3, the cost of construction for your expansion. Could somebody please tell us how much that total construction cost is going to be? And when you're answering that to include the cost per square foot, could you please hold my time?
I'll get you that answer.
Thank you. Has this board pursued any remuneration from the CEO headhunter due to the egregious errors and omissions that I have brought up twice?
We looked at their contract with us, and there was not an opportunity for us to go after them for any kind of damages. There was a period of time, but it was a very short period of time that they had a guarantee.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you very much. Finally, my kudos to the board for last month's meeting. I wanted to praise you for the elimination of the disqualification of potential new board members. Also, for your pursuit of a forensic audit. The transparency that you signed up for on the website for votes taken outside of the normal meetings, and your pledge to discuss these votes, these out-of-meeting votes, at the subsequent meetings. Thank you.
Ms. Carmen, for the record, you spoke 6 minutes last time. I didn't cut you off. So just so you're aware.
I don't know why this has to be so contentious.
It's not.
Your folks
It's
out
not.
here could really help you if you would just let
And
us.
regardless of the feelings, everybody that got to speak spoke. Everybody that wanted to speak. All right, anybody else? Okay.
So does that gotta be a board item on the agenda to change that?
Well, I can't remember ever cutting somebody off, to be honest.
Well,
That's what I was thinking, 4 minutes
tell you
is,
what.
4 minutes is great, but, and I'd be willing to make a motion that we do it 4 minutes, as long as we do it as 4 minutes in absolute. Because I can't remember when we have told somebody to sit down after just 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Other
It's
than
been much longer than that.
Other than the hooting and the hollering in the back
Exactly.
from people that weren't members.
Yeah. So
I
if
don't
we wanted to
remember
go to 4
everybody-
minutes and make it absolute with an alarm and tell everybody,
It's
I
absolute.
think that
Make
we,
that
I
a
think
motion.
that we should all be able to discuss things
Okay.
openly and freely. And there shouldn't be any time limits, except when we have somebody that goes to the podium and just speaks on and on and on about the same thing. And I'm not referring to you guys, okay? Carmen, I'm not referring to you at all. But we've had that before.
I think our resolution actually has some flexibility in it and says that the chair can adjust speaking time at their discretion depending on the number of speakers. It's worded that way in the,
Since I've been here in January, I don't remember cutting off anybody.
Yeah.
And I'll go through the transcripts. Yes, sir.
I would just point out, everything you guys saying is correct, okay? But the people like myself and Carmen Reynolds, we prepare these things prior to a meeting based on what we've seen in the past. So I think it would be beneficial for everybody that you get it on the agenda and give us 4 and what you're saying, if it has to go past and they're not completely, out of whack, then it's all good.
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. I know that certain of the members, board members, have no affection for me, but last month when I was speaking, I saw Director Thiel and I heard him saying 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 30 seconds, 5 minutes. I mean, he was counting down.
Carmen, as the secretary, that's his duty, and I let you speak for 6 minutes. So please, that's,
It was not identified that he's the secretary and he's the timekeeper. Now we know because you just said it. But I was standing up here also in another instance at the podium to make a remark about a process that you guys were trying to finish, and you finished it, and then you told me that you've moved on. So you didn't allow the public to speak on that item. So please do not say that you welcome us and you will allow us to speak, because that wasn't the case last month. Thank you.
did I not sit you down for an hour in the office and talk to you about issues?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And
I just want to make sure that we're open and honest.
did I
about-
not return your call about information that I said I would get at the last meeting, but we haven't,
Next time you hear that there's a 47% rate increase, just give me a call or call
we
Laura.
haven't finished that loop on another subject, and you're still taking jabs.
So what would it take to just, do we have to have it on the agenda to change it to 4 minutes?
I think the resolution allows for flexibility, and like tonight, there weren't that many speakers, so we can let people go more than 4 minutes. But last month, there were, 30 people that wanted to speak, and if you gave
We
everybody
still let them go more than 3
4
minutes.
minutes, you're gonna.
But like
be
Daryl's
2
talking,
hours.
if you say 4 minutes, just like the county, 4 minutes, that's done. You don't get to expand back to 4 minutes. So, all right, we'll look at it.
No, I wouldn't either.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got one?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion